Okay, welcome to week 2. Today is the day when I get this off. It is now 11:30 and my appointment is around 5. So it's going to be a little while. Today I'm going to spend tidying. I'm getting my bed sheets cleaned and probably going to go for a nice walk, get some empanadas. Empanadas, always empanadas, because empanadas are great. I'm not going to make this really long. I'm just going to show you what I'm looking like right now. And then once I've done that, the next thing you'll see is me getting this off. And I don't expect for that to feel that different, because at the end of the day you can see like my face isn't going to change shape in that time, but I don't know, I'll finally be able to see the whole face and everything that's going through. So this is what I look like right now. I'll see you after my appointment. Ta-da! Nose out. It is Saturday, the 28th, 2 days after the nose cast came off, 10 days after the surgery. Yesterday, I'll tell you a little bit about taking the cast off. It was a very strange experience. I initially had Marit carry the phone so that she could take video of them like revealing the nose and putting the mirror in front of me, and I could be like, oh my God, it's my nose. It's so wonderful. Look at me. I look so beautiful. But I quickly realized in the appointment that I was too overwhelmed. And when you're autistic and you're overwhelmed, and probably not just autistic people, but it feels autistic. When I was overwhelmed as I was in that moment, I just was not going to be able to have a reaction. So the first thing that happened was that he started taking the stitches out of the nose and the eyes and taking the staples out of my head. And the staples, fine. The most painful bit about taking out the staples was actually when he would snag the hairs, taking them out. The staples themselves came out just fine. The nose was really painful, really sore. And it is so funny that the most painful part of this entire process, having peeled the skin off my skull and peeled my lower lip off and put it under my chin in order to reach my jaw, the most painful part of the process was pulling the stitches out of my nose. And I swear to God, it felt like he was pulling the whole wound open doing it. It was awful. And then the eye as well, quite painful. This one he had to redo. He had to just set a new stitch in this one, which was fun. So I get to have that experience again, which is great. But yeah, so he did all of the stitches first, and then he took the cast off. And after that had happened, I was so overwhelmed and so overloaded that when he put the mirror in front of me, all I could see was just all the ways in which it wasn't yet what it was going to be. This part of my nose still quite swollen, so my nose looks a little bit like I'm wearing like a lion mask. Do you remember the Beauty and the Beast show from the 90s with Ron Perlman? And he had like a lion type face, and it's like the make my nose look really flat and long and like wide, and it just didn't look like what I could recognize. So he was saying, oh, it's so beautiful, it's so great, it's so, oh, look at this, and we managed to preserve some of the bump, and they have. It's like you can just about see it, but again, hidden by this. So he was saying a bunch of stuff, and all I could respond with was, yeah, Poor Amanda was filming to get, the big reveal, the big moment, and Doctor Rossi told me you were allowed to show more emotion. You were allowed to show that you're happy. And I look at Amanda with her camera, and I just gotta turn to her and go, "It's beautiful." I was just too overwhelmed. Once I got to see it from the side and I could see the profile, it started to click into place a little bit more. But there was another thing that was weird to me about seeing it from the front. And that is that I've never been able to see my nostrils in the way that I can now. Because I usually always had this big bump at the front, and it would kind of like come down in front. You could see a little bit of nostrils, but not the whole nostril. And it was very weird. I couldn't get used to it. I'm still struggling to get used to it. I feel also to some extent that maybe the surgery has accentuated the ways in which my face is tilted, because my face is slightly slanted in one direction. I feel like maybe it's accentuated that. I'm not mad about that if it stays that way. I don't mind having distinctive face. I just want it to be distinctive and feminine, you know? That was that experience. It was very strange. In the car on the way back to the hotel, Marit was doing all the talking for me. Well, I just sat in the back of the car, just looking out the windows and just dissociating completely. I was so, I guess, disappointed that I hadn't had a bigger reaction, that I didn't get to have the sort of reveal moment. But I think that's the reality of facial feminization surgery, is you never really get to have that moment. I think it comes in smaller moments throughout your recovery. The first moment I realized what the new brow bone looks like, for example, was a moment for me where I was like, I looked so puffy and horrendous in so many ways, but I could see what was happening here. I could see how my eyes were opening up, and that was a big difference. But you know, I still look a little bit like a Giga Chad or handsome Squidward, if you like. And it's going to take a long time before that settles. It'll be September or October before my features really truly settle. And in the meantime, there's going to be lots of moments where I feel like, something's finally in place. The next thing I'm looking forward to is for the hole inside my mouth to shut so that I can eat more easily, and for me to be able to stop wearing the compression day to day. I won't be allowed to wear it anymore after Wednesday, because that's when I have my transplants, and I can't have anything touching the transplants for like a week. And then to get the sensation back in my lips, and to be able to eat without my lips swelling. I don't know how long that's going to take, because the swelling while I'm talking, I can feel it. I can feel it right now, and it's like my lip is really heavy and like thick and full, and the same thing with the jaw. And I'm looking forward to that to kind of pass, so that I can, you know, talk and eat normally, and I can still not make much in the way of facial expressions. I can just about wiggle my eyebrows. I can pout a little bit, but that hurts, and that's about it. I can't really frown. So there's a lot of things that are still to come. But you know, yesterday I went to the eco park and it was great. I accidentally revealed my nose early, because in the previous video I needed to slap in some temporary photos, and I took some silly photos at the eco park, so you actually got to see my nose then. The eco park is great. It used to be the Buenos Aires Zoo, and now it's the eco park, focusing on rehabilitation and release back into the environment. They have a puma that used to be a pet, so it can't be re-released. It has this huge enclosure, this massive enclosure that's like a simulated natural environment for it, and it seems very happy there. And there's Mara running around just freely in the park, and these birds that I don't know what are, but they're wonderful. One of them really wanted my banana smoothie. And today I went to the Evita Museum and learned loads about Eva Perón. I've had such a lovely time here so far. Now I'm on my own. Marit left yesterday morning, and I'm just kind of doing my own thing. I'm on the apps at the moment, not so much to go on dates, because what am I going to do with anyone at this point, but mostly to see if there are any local lesbians who would like to go to the eco park with me, or to museums, and see if I can finally find the capybara in the eco park, because I couldn't find any last time. And I've got one more Pixar movie to watch. I just got Elio left, which is last year's movie. I took some photos just before the surgery, and I taken equivalent photos today on the 10-day mark to compare and contrast. So you can have a look on the side of me here to see the different views. You can tell that, like, you can see how big my jaw is compared to what it was before the surgery. And ultimately it's going to be slightly smaller. You can see just how much there's left to heal. And you can see in the profiles, you can see the way that it's settling into a more feminine space in the upper half of the face already. So that's quite exciting, and I can have that as a sort of little treat whenever I'm worried about this. I know that around the 1 and 2 month mark, there's a lot of people who struggle with where they're at then, because obviously you've waited for so long and it's still not anywhere near where it's going to end up. So I'm waiting on those days and remembering what others have said about that. So not looking forward to that and having to remind myself that it's okay, but I'm prepared. I feel like I'm as prepared as I can be.
Okay.
That's going to be enough for this section of the video. Bye bye. Hello. It is Monday the 30th, 11th or 12th day. I don't remember. My hair transplant is in 2 days. Today we're going to talk about the surgery, because I realized I hadn't really talked about the day of the surgery itself yet. So let's get to it. As I mentioned in the pre-surgery videos, I had to get up really early in the morning in order to eat before the cutoff point, because they wanted to make sure that I ate close to the cutoff point so that my blood sugar wasn't too low by the time of the surgery itself. So I was up at 3:30 and had finished my breakfast at 4 a.m. Then I had to wait around for a while for the cardiologist to come and do some tests on my heartbeat, my body electricity, etc. And then it was just kind of a waiting game, because I wasn't in for surgery till the afternoon. So I was picked up around 1:30 and taken to the hospital, where I was kept company by Amanda as nurses, the anaesthetist, and various other people kind of came to say hello and to check in on me and see how I was doing. The anaesthetist was good. He came in and asked if I had any questions and let me know how the process was going to be and what it's going to feel like. I'd never been under anesthesia before. It's all a new experience to me, so I didn't know what questions to ask, but he kind of knew what to let me know about. I then had to put on the blue coat, which was tied just on one side and was completely naked underneath. And before I could put that on, I had to disinfect my entire front of the body. So I had this thing, and I would soap up and sponge off, essentially. Eventually it was time for the surgery itself. I was taken via chair into the room where I got to meet my surgeon and his other surgeon, I guess, assistant surgeon, and the nurses and the anaesthetist. Anaesthetist is very hard to say when your mouth doesn't work. The whole vibe was very gentle. Everyone was very gentle and kind and just quiet as I came in. And I lay down on the table, trying very hard to make sure that I wasn't flashing people, etc. But I was probably butt naked for at least some of the surgery, at least considering that they had to go through my stomach to get fat. Still, you're feeling vulnerable in that moment, so I just kind of shuffled myself onto the operating table and lay down. I was then told to just kind of lay back as they put needles through my arm, but here and down here. I was told to put my head in one direction, and they were going to draw on my head for the incision, and then in the other direction. And as I was doing this, they said, at some point you'll probably start to feel a little bit dizzy. I thought, okay, that's fine. And I lie there, and I just had time to think, oh yeah, I'm feeling a little bit dizzy. And it was all very quiet, and everyone's being very chill. And then suddenly it's beep, 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 and there's people talking, and there's all sorts of stuff going on, and there's a machine beeping. Someone is going, Huld, Huld. I remembered that I'd been told that I needed to confirm that I'm mentally present in the room. So I said, yes, I'm here. And there's all sorts of noise going on, because their adrenaline has been going and going and going and going for the 7 hours that I've been under. But for me, I was just there, and then suddenly I'm there again, and I'm not aware of any pain in my head, but I'm aware of excruciating pain in my ankles and in the top of my hip. Then I'm being told to shuffle off the operating table, and I'm moved onto my bed that they moved then through the hospital. And I'm conscious through all of this, but I remember waking up in the surgery room and then being moved through the hospital into my own room. and them hooking me up to an IV with like anti-nausea and sleep meds and anti-pain meds, all sorts of, like a cocktail to basically keep me as comfortable as possible through the night. I'm left in the room with my interpreter. At some point someone comes along with dinner and I'm like, and it's only later on that I realize, oh god, there's food here. It's just like broth and jello, but I'll be damned if I let anyone take it away from me if I have free food. So a nurse came by and was like, are you done with this? And I was like, no. And she leaves and I immediately start just like scoffing this broth and the jello, and then I kind of sleep ish through the night. I wake up and sleep and wake up and sleep, and the interpreter eventually is replaced by another interpreter. I think it was Sophia and Inez. And Sophia, she definitely didn't see me at my best. Inez I did have some conversations with because she was there when I woke up in the morning as the nurses were coming to check in on me and things like that. And then suddenly it was morning. It was like 10, 11 a.m. and then I was out the door, and I was home suddenly. Then it was Thursday and I looked and felt like hell, and I was just in my Airbnb with my Huld and my antibiotics and my ibuprofen style pain meds. Honestly, pain wasn't an issue. It was mostly uncomfortable. Thursday particularly was so uncomfortable. Friday started uncomfortable but got better. And then I think Saturday was when I was like the biggest. Like I was so puffed up, I was so puffy. My eyes and my chin and everything, my nose. The first night I remember was so uncomfortable, so difficult. I remember waking up at least once every hour, and at one point I woke up and I couldn't get back to sleep. It must have been two in the morning, and I'd been trying to sleep since 8, so I decided, I'm gonna try to sleep 8 till 8, just give myself as much time as possible because I know I'm not gonna sleep well. And at about 2 a.m. my body had just decided it was done trying to sleep, and I just lay awake for ages. I went to the toilet, I did all the things that I needed to do, and I just lay awake thinking, God, this is a lot. Why am I doing this to myself? Could I recommend doing this? No. That all changed the next day. I felt so much better once I got into the afternoon on the Friday. It felt much better. But yeah, that was a tough first night. Different surgeons will have different procedures and different hospitals that they do things in. I see a lot in the American hospitals, their post-surgery instructions is very much around like constant surveillance and supervision, and the ice masks that have to be changed every hour, and that being like replaced through the night, the first few nights. None of that here. They're very chill, shall we say, about the ice thing. I didn't get an ice pack on my face till I had come back to my Airbnb, put the ice pack in the freezer and put it on myself later in the afternoon. And I'm fine. I don't think it affected how long the swelling is going to go on for. Did it affect how uncomfortable the swelling was? Maybe a little bit. But once I was in the flat, I just started using the ice pack as often as I could. Obviously not at night, which means that in the mornings I would wake up quite uncomfortable, quite like puffy and difficult, but it was fine. It was fine. This is the recommendation they have here, and all I would recommend anyone do if they're in the situation is just take the ice packs as often as you can. I don't think I've discussed exactly what's been done, so let's go through it real quick. Usually incisions happen along the hairline and you hide it at the edge of the hairline, and then if you get a hair transplant later, the hair transplant kind of goes over that. But because I'm having my hair transplant 2 weeks after the surgery, they couldn't put it there because then they wouldn't be able to make the hair transplant stick in the place where it's still healing. So my incision is through the middle of my head. What they do is they take that incision, they peel that skin back all the way down, and then they lift off this part of the bone. This is called a type 3 brow bone reduction, because of the airways, passages and stuff we have back here, it's more successful if you have to literally take that off, shave off underneath it, and then put it back on. And then they shave down these brows. They reshaped the orbital rims, which is why I have the lovely bruising. They reshaped the orbital rims to make them gentler and do a little lift on the eyelids, which is why I have the stitches on the eyes. And that's opened up my gaze a little bit, makes it so that the loose skin that results from doing this work doesn't then just like hang down in front of your face. A full rhinoplasty with septoplasty, which is when they fix the septum, because my septum was definitely wonky, which is why now that my nose is starting to calm down a little bit, I can actually breathe quite well through my nose, which is a lovely side effect of the whole situation. It does mean I can't blow my nose for several weeks, but you know, that's fine. I'll take it. So that's kind of shortened my nose a little bit, turned it up a little bit, and reduced the kind of profile of it, but at the same time maintained a little bit of the profile. Then they've done a lip lift, so an incision along the bottom of the nose to just like take a little bit of the skin and just like lift it up, which is how, when I close my mouth, I now have fuller expression of the lip. And then here comes a really fun part. They cut between the lip and the teeth, and they just peel back my bottom lip and put them under the chin to access the chin. So then they've shaved down the chin here, shaved down the jawbone, and then replaced my lips underneath and sewn it up. That's why I have a little hole here, because one of the stitches popped a little bit early, and so I have to be very careful when I eat. Then what they've done is he goes in with a rod and uses like UV light or something and shoots it into this underneath the skin, and it kind of firms up the collagen and the skin, and it kind of just snatches up the chin skin a little bit to avoid, again, this any sagging from the reduction of mass in the jaw and the chin. Then suck out a little bit of fat from my belly and inject it underneath the eyes and in the chin and in the top of the lip as well, just a little bit. And this is all to create, in the end, what we hope is going to be a nice, subtle change to make me look like my own twin sister. So now you know what happened on the day from my perspective and what they did to me on the day from their perspective. Tomorrow I have my consultation for the hair transplant, and tomorrow they'll take my CT scan post-surgery, so I'll be able to see what my skeleton looks like now, which I'm very excited about. Okay, that's enough out of me today. I am gonna go. Okay, it is 7 in the morning and I have my hair transplant appointment at 8. And at 1 a.m. last night, my neighbors were running up and down the stairwell outside of my room and letting the door to the stairwell slam shut every single time. I screamed at them through the door at about 1 a.m. and they stopped slamming, but they were still going in and out, in and out, in and out. And I was just boiling with rage for a good hour and a half, 2 hours before I got to sleep. So that was fun. But this is the last section of this week's video, and I'm going to quickly talk about routines. Since I'm sitting here on the bed, the first thing to talk about is sleeping. And when it comes to sleeping, you have to sleep with your head raised. I was advised by a lot of people to see if I could get a recliner, like a chair, to sleep in. I didn't get around to doing that and didn't end up feeling like I was comfortable with just buying one online because I wouldn't know whether or not that was going to do the job for me. So I got the more standard thing, which is a wedge pillow. And it's basically this. Nice and simple. And I have to sleep on my back, which is not how I get to sleep. I don't get to sleep on my back normally. I do sleep on my back, but I don't get to sleep on my back because I like curling up. But I can't do that after the surgery or after the hair transplants. So, wedge pillow it is. So I put the wedge pillow like that. These two pillows I put over here so I get my knee raised. One for my lumbar, and then my satin one for my hair on the top. The lumbar one, dubious whether or not that helps me, but that's what I did. The longer I sleep in one go, the more likely I am to slide. So when I have a good night's sleep, I do tend to wake up like this. But hey, at least, as you can see, my head's still elevated. So, you know, you take your wins where you can get them. The other issue is that I tend to wake up like this. Sometimes I'll even sleep like this, which is weird. But actually that's less likely when I'm upright like this, because this is harder to hold than if I'm lying down. This doesn't touch any of the transplants, so at least that should be fine. I know there exists wedge pillows that have a little, like, they come in two parts, that have like this wedge and then another like triangle there to get your knees raised. And I would potentially recommend looking into that, because the pillows that I had under my knees, they definitely moved during the night, and sometimes I would just like kick them away and things like that. But it does really help to not have your legs completely flat on the bed. As far as medication goes, I had to take antibiotics for 7 days as a preventative measure. And obviously you choose when you take them. I chose to take them at like 8 so that I could go to sleep the first night. And that meant that every morning I had to be up at like 7:30 in order to make sure that I took my antibiotics at 8 the next morning. Because you had to take them every 12 hours on the dot. And I don't know how accurate you have to be, but I was like 8 a.m. exactly. 8 p.m. 8 a.m. 8 p.m. So that's me. I'm nothing if not autistic. And the other medication they gave me was just ibuprofen style tablet. So I just had to eat before I had it. And it's basically ibuprofen, but stronger. Other than that, I haven't really needed anything. At the moment, I'm actually in more pain than I used to be before, but not in a way that feels painful like I've been cut open. I can notice the pressure and things like that. I notice that more. Maybe I should be taking ibuprofen before I go to sleep, just to help with the discomfort of that, if that helps. Especially when your neighbours are running in and out the doors in the middle of the night. All right, let's get back to routines. So for the first week, until I got my nose cast off, I had to like stand in the shower with my head really tilted back. And it doesn't look that much here, but it was incredibly uncomfortable on the chin because of the swelling. It also makes it really weird trying to pick up stuff, trying to pick up soaps and things like that. So keep them somewhere close to your head so you don't have to actually like bend down while doing it. And then I had to like gently rub around the area of my scarring, but you have to be careful so you don't snag the staples. Once the cast was off, I was able to actually get water on my face and actually wash my face, which is a godsend. But I was warned that I would end up getting more water in my eyes than before because I don't have the same brow bone. And yeah, that was true and very annoying, especially because I couldn't wipe the water away very vigorously because I'm still sensitive. But it was so nice to be able to wash my face. Now, if like me, you're getting a jawbone reduction and a chin reduction, and you still shave your face, it's gonna get tricky. So just be prepared for that. Use a razor that you're very comfortable with and really take your time with it. I'm used to shaving in the shower, just with a small mirror, but I had to like really do it after the shower because I have no sensation in my chin still. I don't know if I'm cutting myself. So you have to be so careful and really make sure that you use a razor that you're confident with. Because yeah, it's gonna feel weird. Now here you can see me spraying the top of my head all the way around the seam of where they cut into me for the surgery. It's really important that you do this, and it's important that you're not stingy with the spray. Just use the spray, buy some more if you have to later on. Just use the bloody spray, and you have to do it twice a day to make sure it stays nice and clean. I recorded this after I got the stitches out, but this was really important in the early days. I would use warm water to clean and like soften all the scabbiness around and in between the stitches, because the stitches look really gnarly. In making sure that I don't snag on them, I would just stand there and clean in between them and kind of twist the Q-tip in between them until it looked nice. And then after that, I would take a little pad underneath my nose and I would take the disinfectant spray and just spray right on the sore. And it's a little bit uncomfortable, but hey, it's easy enough. And then you don't get it in your mouth. If you have a giant wound inside your mouth, keep your mouth clean. So I had to use mouthwash anytime I had a meal, aside from obviously brushing my teeth very carefully. This is a really important part of just like making sure that you don't have stuff sitting in your wound that's going to fester and turn bad. If you're squeamish about spitting, look away right now. Oh, fudge. And before you look back, I'm going to express the fluids in my jaw and chin. So there's a buildup of fluids after the surgery, and you have to kind of like get that out there so it doesn't sit and fester. It's very unpleasant, not very nice. Sometimes you pop like a little bubble of fluids and it all comes out. It's not very nice. I know at least one person who doesn't believe in this as a practice. I'd be interested to hearing from other trans people who've had the same kind of surgery, to hear if they had to do this, if they found it helpful, or if not. Okay, you can look back. But then look away if you're squeamish about eating. Because I'm just showing you here a little bit of me trying to eat some noodles with some eggs in them, just so you can get an idea of how it was to eat my first few days. It's very awkward, it's very difficult, but it has to be done. And that's where Huld comes in, because it's an easy meal and gives me all the nutrients and I don't have to think about it. Most of the time I would have one per day, except for the Thursday when I had two. And I add a little bit of chia seed into it just for extra fiber and a little bit of texture. And then I just give it a shake. A lot of people like to rag on Huld, but I find it incredibly useful when you struggle to feed yourself, which I do sometimes. So there you go. Now drinking I found really difficult at the beginning, but then I found the trick. I stick my tongue out, use my tongue as my lip, and then I can drink just fine. Thumbs up. Oh, and don't forget to bring lip balm. It's so important. I'm not usually someone who remembers to do lip balm day to day, even though I like it. But my God, it's been so good for me. Always keep your lips moist. Time for the ice pack. I would do this once every hour or every other hour. And here's one I prepared earlier, and I'll show you how to afterwards. Put away your Tamagotchi and wrestle that bloody thing into its pack. As I said, I don't have a face mask, I have this instead. And I start by putting it on top of my head, and I wrap that around and get it nice and solid. It's not really solid and firm there, so I have to hold on to it for the 10 minutes, but it gives you a good opportunity to practice showing off your guns, so that's something. Then I put it on the front of my forehead. At this point, it's a little bit softer, but still quite hard. And yeah, just sits there nice and easy. And finally, it goes around my chin. At this point, it's soft enough that I can actually mold it to my face a little bit better. So I mold it to fit on my bottom lip, but then fold it out so it doesn't sit over where I had my fat injections. And then at the very end, before I put it back in the freezer, I pre-fold it and run my fingers along the edges to make a nice, easily opened, folded ice pack. And then I just chuck it back in the freezer, ready for the next time I have to use it. And then we come to the exercise portion of the video. For the first couple of days, all I did was walk back and forward in the flat. Not on Thursday. On Thursday, I did nothing. But on Friday, I started walking around, trying to get my steps up and steps in, and just moving around as much as I could. And then as soon as I was able to, I would start walking in the stairs. I've mentioned this before. I would do about 2 floors at a time, take a break, have a little bit of a breather, and then I would keep walking until I got to the top of the stairs. One of the days, I did a little half an hour workout. So I would walk up and down, up and down, up and down, always keeping a look at my heart rate, making sure that I wasn't breathing too hard and that my heart rate wasn't spiking too much. And that felt quite good. It was a good way to get a little bit of exercise in, get my blood pumping without overexerting myself. And another thing that I would do just to shake things loose a little bit when I was bored before I could leave the flat was I would just dance around. And if you think I'm dancing to music here, I'm not. I'm just watching Pixar movies. And eventually I was able to go out. And there's a major area near where I've been staying, which has loads of parks and various other areas. So that was really nice. And I actually even got an opportunity to go on a pedalo near the Rose Garden. And that was so cute. And I had a lovely time doing that. And it was good exercise that was low intensity and moved my legs in a different way to walking. So that was good. And not too far after I started going outside, I also started doing actual little workouts, doing squats, only as many squats as feels okay. And then I would do maybe some glute bridges. And these ones are just an interesting little movement that I picked up on Instagram, and it's there to kind of hit the glutes. I only did a few of those because it's more targeted and I didn't want to overload anyway.
And that's pretty much everything. As you can tell, there's a lot to be getting on with, and actually time has gone pretty fast the last 2 weeks. It feels really weird to have been here for 2 weeks already, and I just have a week and then I'm home. I'm leaving in less than a week. I'm gonna finish my Huld and get ready for my hair transplants. As with the last video, if you do have questions, whether you're a trans person who's looking to go through the same situation as me, or if you're not a trans person and you just are a curious little so-and-so, please feel free to ask me questions. Please. Yeah. Please feel free to ask me any questions you might have. I'll see you back in Edinburgh because the next video is in a week's time and it will come out after I get home. So I'll see you then. Goodbye.